All right, let's keep taking calls. Let's go next to the caller from the 918 area code. Caller, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, my name is Keith, and I'm calling from Orlando, Florida.
All right, two calls in a row from Orlando. Keith, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you saw it or not, but yesterday the CEO of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, interviewed Edward Snowden,
I didn't see
um,
that.
and I was just wondering what you think. The Trump administration seems pretty hostile towards the idea of a pardon or, a lesser sentence.
Yeah.
I was just wondering what you felt about that.
In terms of how likely I think it is that we would see Edward Snowden pardoned, or in terms of what I think should happen?
Both, if you can.
Okay. I see it as incredibly unlikely that Edward Snowden would be pardoned by the incoming Trump administration, partially because there's an intertwined relationship there with all of the Russia stuff that's going on. And I think that if Trump is smart, and he claims to be, which is why he says he doesn't need daily intelligence briefings, he only needs them weekly because he's so smart. If he's smart, I don't think he would try to entangle himself too much in a really visible way with Russia so that, CEO Rex Tillerson can go and make deals and whatever else he's planning to do. So my sense is that it would be insanely public if Donald Trump were to do something like that. The counter to that would be maybe Donald Trump would sort of see himself as being able to tout how in favor of disclosure and transparency and free speech he is by doing something it doesn't seem President Obama is going to do insofar as pardoning Edward Snowden, or more than likely it would be agreeing to some kind of lesser sentence. And of course, it would be completely counter to the total lack of transparency that we see from Trump in reality with regard to taxes, with regard to business holdings, et cetera. But from an optics perspective, there's a play there that Donald Trump could make. But if I had to bet, I'm not a betting man, but if I had to bet, I'd say we don't see a pardon of Snowden. Number two, I think the important thing with Snowden is we have to distinguish between whistleblowers and leakers. And what Edward Snowden exposed, while completely deplorable and we now know not useful in terms of the surveillance he exposed, it had been made legal by statute, including the Patriot Act and other surveillance laws that were passed. So from a legal perspective, Edward Snowden is not a whistleblower. That, I know, to a lot of people doesn't really matter because he exposed incredibly wasteful and self-destructive behavior by surveillance and intelligence agencies. And I agree with that. So I think that it would not be a bad thing if Edward Snowden were brought back to the United States. And also the intelligence value of bringing Edward Snowden back to the U.S. to learn more about how he did what he did, et cetera, would have significant value. I don't know that a pardon sets the right precedent. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I would have to agree. I agree he's not technically a whistleblower.
Yeah.
But the contribution to the public discourse that he's provided, maybe a probation sentence or something like that would be appropriate, not throwing him in jail.
Yeah, I think that is a lot to ask for. I think if a deal is going to be made, it would be for maybe less jail time than what he would otherwise face. But we'll ultimately see. Thank you so much for the call. I really, really appreciate it. Always great to hear from our viewers and listeners in Florida.